Good morning. Good morning. Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside the Ropes with Coach Mario. Inside the Ropes with Coach Mario. Coach Mario, owner and head coach of Warriors Pride Boxing Academy in Miami, Florida. How's it going, guys and gals? It's a Friday here in Miami, Florida. Friday. It's been raining all week. It's been off and on. I haven't been able to do a few things that I usually like to do. I like to go to the range, usually on Wednesdays, and been getting into a lot of air gunning lately. Purchasing air guns, PCP air rifles, and stuff like that, and it helps me relax. I usually start work at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and train some fighters at my gym. And usually on Wednesdays, after I get out of the gym and training some of my people, I like to go to the range. But it's been raining this week, a lot of rain here in Miami, off and on. It's a Friday. It's kind of sunny right now, but you never know. Miami's weather's kind of bipolar, so it could be raining and then in the next 10-15 minutes the sun comes up. But anyway, today I decided to stay in. I did already my work. I'm done for the day, so I have some time to talk a little bit about a subject that I've been meaning to cover for a while now. All right, that cover is Puerto Rican boxing in a recession right now. Is Puerto Rican boxing, why is Puerto Rican boxing affected in the last few years after Cotto has retired? Who is the new heir to the throne? Who's the new gallito from Puerto Rico that is gonna take over? And there's been a lot of talk of several fighters. I have my own ideas of who that person might be. I actually have two people that I consider to be the future, the face of the future face of boxing in Puerto Rico. And I've been meaning to cover this subject for a while now, but like I said before, I haven't had the opportunity. It's been crazy. It's been my gym. It's been a lot of work, and now I have a little bit of time to cover that specific subject. I know this is a subject that interests most people, especially those fans from the Isle of Enchantment, La Isla del Encanto, from Puerto Rico, that are passionate about their boxers and basically are looking forward to seeing who the next fighter from the island of Enchantment is, who the next superstar is going to be from Puerto Rico. All right, so there's a name that has been mentioned a lot lately, the last year or so. He had, I don't know how many knockouts in the first round, and you all know who I'm talking about. We're talking about Mr. Edgar Berlanga. Berlanga. He is actually of Puerto Rican heritage. He was not born in Puerto Rico. He was born in Brooklyn, New York. Both of his parents are Puerto Rican, though. All right? Both of his parents are Puerto Rican. He is 6 feet 1 inch height. He's a super middleweight. He's got a total of 20 fights, 16 wins by knockout, and those wins by knockout were in the first round. So he was a wrecking machine for the first couple of years of his pro career, just beating everybody by knockout. I believe I think it's I can't remember who his promoter is. I believe his Top Rank was very excited about Berlanga and his future, and they were talking about, Canelo in a few years and a lot of promises. However, in the last, I believe, 3 or 4 fights, the last 4 fights, he has won by unanimous decision. All right, all his fights have gone the distance. All right, all of them. And as a boxing coach and someone that actually looks at not only the hype about a fighter, and I usually tend to reserve my opinion about a fighter until I see him multiple times and being challenged by good opponents. I can make a decision or make up my mind on a particular fighter and his potential to becoming a superstar or a great fighter. I can usually tell when that fighter is challenged by somebody at a top level. All right, Berlanga in his last 4 fights has gone the distance again against Demond Nicholson on April 24, 2021. He won that fight, unanimous decision. Then he fought Marcelo Esteban Cáceres on October 9, 2021. That also went to a decision, unanimous decision. Then he fought an over-the-hill Steve Rolls. It was a 10-round fight, and that also went in decision. And his last fight was against Romer Alexi Angulo, who gave him a tough fight, and that also went a unanimous decision, and it was a 10-rounder. All right, that was June 11th, this past June 11th. So he's fighting. He's fighting very constantly. He's been able to stay busy. However, in his last 4 fights, he has fought guys that were either a little over the hill, past their prime, or with records that weren't so impressive. All right. For example, Romer Alexi Angulo had 27 wins and 3 losses. All right, and he's had a loss against David Benavidez. David Benavidez knocked him out. He lost against Gilberto Ramirez, Julio Ramirez. So he has some good fights, Romer. However, I believe he was close to 40 years old, 38 years old when he fought Berlanga, who's a young and upcoming prospect from Puerto Rico. So the question remains, all right, what do you all think about Edgar Berlanga? Is he the new face of Puerto Rican boxing? Is he the future of Puerto Rican boxing? Is he the man that's gonna inherit the throne that Cotto has left vacant? Are people going to be following him the same way that they followed and were excited to see Cotto's fights and Tito Trinidad? I will have to tell you that my opinion is that that's a resounding no. I really don't think that Berlanga has the level of fighting. Not that he's not potential good fighter, but the level of fighting that Cotto and Tito Trinidad had. Not only that, but the quality of opponents that these other people had was far superior. And I know, although he is a fairly young individual, and those things should be coming up. Those challenges should be coming up in the near future. I don't think he has the technical level. I saw him a little desperate, frustrated against some of these fighters. He was trying to go for a knockout. I think he's stuck in his mind that he's got to knock everybody out. When you can actually, the knockout comes by itself, like I've said before, and you start breaking down your opponent, and basically that's the way you can become victorious by knockout. It's a process. Sometimes when you strive too much to knock somebody out, like for example Canelo with Bebo, trying to go for that knockout punch the whole night, just throwing power punches. He was totally exhausted by the end of the fight, and that's what happens when sometimes you just try to do too much. All right, And when I say try to do too much, is try to knock your opponent's head off, from the beginning. That's not the purpose of a fight, of a fighter. A fighter should implement everything that he's practiced during his training camp and try to put it into practice into in that next fight. All right, the footwork, the defense, the head movement, the slipping, the combinations he used, all that other stuff. If he does all of that, he's gonna be able to break down his opponent and have an opportunity for a knockout. But sometimes a knockout doesn't come, and that's when critics and people are gonna see the level of maturity that you have as a fighter. Are also gonna notice your technique and your ability to adapt and to adapt to your fighter, to your opponent, and to make the necessary adjustments in order to beat that opponent. All right. So Edgar Berlanga, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, is not the future of boxing for Puerto Rico. I don't see him as somebody that can carry on the legacy or the achievements that people like fighters like legendary fighters like Cotto and Trinidad and some of the other Puerto Rican fighters from the past have achieved. So I will scratch him off my list. All right. So we have two more that I mentioned, two more fighters that I mentioned also that are promising fighters from Puerto Rico. Okay, we have Sander Sayas, who is a very young fighter. I believe he's 20 years old. He's won all his fights. His record, I would have to say, is a very impressive one. I've known Xander for several years now, and here in Miami, he has fought in Miami most of the time. He's been fighting, I believe, since he was maybe 8 or 9 years old, or maybe younger, if I'm mistaken. When I used to take some of my fighters over to local tournaments, I would see him there as a very young kid, and he would impress everybody. I mean, with the ability, I believe he became national champion several times, amateur national champion. He is only 19 years old, so he's got the whole future ahead of him. He has a total of 13 fights, 13 wins, 9 wins by knockout. Sander Sayas. All right. So Sander Sayas, amateur career. Let me see right here. Sander Sayas was 2017 and 2018 U.S. national champion. He was one of the youngest people, if I'm not mistaken, the youngest person that top ranked, youngest fighter that top ranked signed to a professional contract, and he has done very well in his boxing career. He's got 13 fights. He's also fighting very regularly. He fights multiple times, and this past year he fought on March 19th. Then 2021 he had 6 fights. 3, 4, 5, 6 fights on 2021. He won some of them by knockout. I believe there was only 2 out of those 6 that went the distance. They were 6-round fights. The other ones were knockout. This kid has all the tools. He's only 19 years old. He's got great skills, great footwork, great power. He's growing right now. He's junior middleweight, if I'm not mistaken, and he is, yeah, correct. He's a junior middleweight, light middleweight, 154 pounder. But this kid is gonna be big. This kid can, once he starts developing and maturing, he might end up fighting 160 or 168. He's got a lot of promise. I believe Sander Sayas has all the tools to become the next the future face of Puerto Rican boxing. Okay. Now, who is the other person that I believe has I'm not gonna say a bigger chance, but I think he's closer to achieving on a championship is Subriel Matias. And if you haven't seen this guy fight, man, you gotta watch him. All right, Subriel Matias, in my opinion, Brownie Matias, they call him Brownie. All right, this guy is something else. All right, he's only 30 years old. He's from Fajardo. He's very proud of Maternillo, which is his the neighborhood where he was born and where he grew up. He's 5'8" in height, and he fights at the junior welterweight division. Now, Subriel, you might know him. Those that have followed his career might know him for the tragic situation that happened with one of his opponents. His name was Max Dadashev, Russian fighter. It was a title eliminator. This happened some years ago. I believe it was on 2019. Yeah, it was July 19th, 2019. So that was almost 3 years ago. That was actually 3 years ago. He took the life of Max Dadashev inside the ring. Max went into coma right after the fight. I actually saw that fight live, and it's still in my mind. And sometimes I don't like to talk about stuff like that, but it might have basically destroyed Subriel Matias. Kind of that guilt that you get when something like this happens. The conscience starts playing games on you, and I believe that showed in his next fight when he fought Petros Ananyan, and he lost a unanimous decision, almost got knocked out. I believe his mind was not 100% right. Maybe he would have been, maybe he was 100% physical wise, but not mental wise. When you take somebody's life, when something like this trap happens to you, tragic, it is a post-traumatic situation, and it actually might have devastated him emotionally for a while, and taken all the how can I say, all the motivation that he had coming up to that fight. After that fight, he has fought Malik Hawkins. All right, he fought Yukimbayev, and he fought Petros Ananyan. He had a rematch, and he knocked out all these three fighters, and he put a hurt on them. This guy has beautiful combinations. He's got like devastating power. I mean, he is right now my favorite fighter. My favorite fighter, not because he's from Puerto Rico, but this guy is something else. He's a dark horse of the junior welterweight division. I truly believe this guy's going to be champion. This guy's, I mean, whoever you put in front of him at 140 pounds is going to go through hell with him. I mean, I can't wait to see him fight a top-level opponent, one of those top 5 guys in the welterweight division. Regis Prograis, Ramirez, any of those guys would have a really, really hard time against Subriel Matias. And I know his opportunity is coming pretty soon. I know he's going to look great. So my thoughts are, in all honesty, that the closest person to achieving that status of the face of Puerto Rican boxing is somebody that not many people know. Maybe outside of Puerto Rico, only big-time hardcore boxing fans have heard about him, is Subriel Matias. If you have not seen him fight, I recommend 100% go see his past fights. This guy is a wrecking machine. He's got that power that George Foreman used to have. It's like a sledgehammers. I mean, it is unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, you can actually hear when you're watching his fights. You can hear his the punching noise, the power of each one of his punches on his opponent, and it is impressive, guys. I think he is the man. Sander Sayas will take a little bit longer. He's being groomed right now. He's only 19. I see Sander in the next 3-4 years getting to that level, to that top level on which he'll be able to challenge for a title. However, Subriel Matias is ready. He's ready right now. I mean, he could challenge for a title at 140. He could fight any of those guys. I know there's only one champion right now, and that might change pretty soon. But definitely is somebody that you have to look for if you're a fan of boxing, if you're a fan of Puerto Rican boxing, if you're wondering what happened to that whole crop of Puerto Rican fighters that I believe they had like 5 or 6 champions at the same time of different weight divisions at one time. I believe that was 80s. You had a cruiserweight, a light heavyweight, if I'm not mistaken. They had a cruiserweight, and then you had I think it was Sugar de Leon, and then you had the Wilfredo Gomez, and you had all these other crop of fighters that were champions. And somehow I believe that this has to do a lot with, how can I say it? There's a quote in the movie Rocky. It says, when I got when things changed, when he got civilized. And I think Puerto Ricans have been looking for other stuff. They've been looking at MMA. They've been looking at to get into more basketball, baseball, and other sports more than boxing. Boxing is a very hard sport. There's so many opportunities now as far as economic opportunities in Puerto Rico that people that are born out of necessity. And this is one of the things that I say, the greatest fighters come from necessity, from a background of either poverty, of need, or abuse. They're hungry to get out of that situation, and their way out was fighting. I don't think that is the situation anymore in Puerto Rico, and I'm pretty sure there's there's people that are struggling and all that. However, their interest lays somewhere else. I believe there's not so much interest in the sport of boxing. There's fewer people interested in boxing in Puerto Rico than that they were back in the 80s, 70s, 60s, when this was the only way out. All right, out of a situation of poverty and need, and I think that's one of the factors why Puerto Rico has not, in the last, since Cotto, has had very, very few fighters that are actually promises to continue that legacy and continue that pedigree of what this small island has produced. I mean, Puerto Rico has produced, I believe, something like 60 champions of the world. It's such a small island. It's 100 miles long, 35 miles wide. It's the pound for pound #1 boxing country in the world. More champions per square mile than anywhere else. So the achievements are great. Like I mentioned before in one of my episodes, the Cria Boricua is there. Puerto Ricans are very brave, very, very, very strong. They have very strong will. They rather die inside the ring than give up. They have so much courage, and that's something that is born with you. All right, that is something that you bring, just like the Mexican fighters are the same way. So anyway, guys, tell me what you guys think as far as who you think the next Puerto Rican great is going to be. Do you think that it's none of these guys? You might feel it's somebody else that I might have overlooked. Please tell me your comments. Remember to like and subscribe. We have been getting a lot of subscribers lately. You know, our audience has been growing. I really appreciate all your comments. I know some of you are not in agreement with some of my opinions, but they are my opinions, guys. And like I said before, as long as you remain respectful, and you know, I have never disrespected anybody. As long as you remain respectful, we're good. I can take your criticism like a man, like a grown man. There's no problem with that. Like I said, you know, you're always learning. You're always learning in the sport. There are things that I might not be aware of. There are things that I might have overlooked, and nobody's perfect. So yes, if you have any opinions, feel free to share with us. Remember to like and subscribe. We are growing a lot lately on subscribers, and I appreciate all those guys and gals that have actually subscribed and hit that bell icon. I really appreciate that, your support. All right. Anyway, I think this is all for now. This is Coach Mario from Warriors Pride Boxing Academy and Inside the Ropes here in our YouTube channel, saying so long, hasta luego, peace, and God bless.